Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of my MyTeam series on F1 23. If you did miss the last race of this series, we were at Miami where we did unfortunately receive our first DNF of the season. It was a wet-dry race which added on a bit more to the difficulties that we had that weekend with just having no pace whatsoever. Max Verstappen did extend his championship lead by getting the win in Miami as we now head straight into the Imola race weekend by going straight to practice. So I feel like if we can optimize our practice around the circuit this weekend, we might be able to score some points. I'm pretty good around Imola. It's one of my more preferable tracks. It just clicks with me. So I'm hoping that we can make up for the woes in Miami and try and get back onto the point scoring road that we're on, as we actually got a cooling system fault, so that's going to slow down our progress a bit. But anyways, cutting now to the end of our first practice program. As you can see, it's actually taken us all 5 laps to get to the purple stage, so it took us a little bit to get into the groove and rhythm of this circuit. But anyways, now onto track acclimatization. So as you can see, we've actually had a very good lap. We've only had 2 corners where we haven't managed to get purple, being turn 3 and somewhere in the middle sector where we probably just missed the exit point. But now this is the qualifying sim. We've been struggling with the qualifying sims all season so far, but this is probably one of our better ones. We've only just been dropping into the red, so we're near where we need to be, but ideally we want to be in the purple. So coming into the end of the practice session now, Charles Leclerc did top the session ahead of Perez and Hamilton. So Perez is also looking pretty strong there, being less than a tenth off the pace. We ended up finishing the session in P9. Everyone was also on the soft tyre, so this might be a genuine P9. So hopefully we can be in the points later on during the Grand Prix. So a bit of a good sign as well, and good to see a couple of different drivers also up there as well. But unfortunately, Formula 1 is never predictable. It is a wet qualifying. We have not done any wet weather driving yet. Well, it looks like this is probably going to be the wettest session that we've done so far this season. So this is going to be a real interesting factor to see how well this car will perform. But this is the first time this season I do believe that we're going to be using the full wets as Alonso sets the pace early on. My personal strategy, for doing a wet qualifying session is just to keep repeating laps. The more laps I do generally, the more I kind of bring the tyres into life and the more confident I get in the conditions where I can start pushing a bit more. So you're going to the first couple of corners, I'm going to be very tentative on the throttle. I'm not going to be wanting to use too much curb. Probably did use a little bit too much for my first flying up and a bit more on the exit curb. But as you can see, this is also our second lap, so we're just going for back-to-back fast laps, and I'm already up on my previous best time as we get a bit taily on the exit going into the hairpin. So yeah, just doing back-to-back fast laps is probably the best way, I think, to do a wet qualifying session, as you just kind of bring the tyres in, you're constantly improving. But one thing that is quite surprising is to see the Alfa Romeos are up there as well, so maybe this wet session is going to change up the starting order, which might bring some of the slower teams up more towards the front, as we've actually got one of the McLarens all up behind us as well, so they're probably all getting into the groove a bit more quicker than us. As now going into the chicane, this is going to be really important to get right, and we actually lock up the rears, so that has really ruined this run now. We were up on our time, so we're just going to pull it off and get out of the way of everyone coming through, so then we don't get an unsafe rejoin. So that's pretty unfortunate. We're going to try and get back on track and go for another lap, as we do very later on. This is 2 laps now late, and we get it all wrong into the final second and actually do go for a spin as we rejoin. So we're starting to really struggle. I think I'm just pushing too hard at the moment to try and get any sort of time in, because it's not a very good look when I'm starting P17 at the moment. And I've had another couple of more attempts now, and I'm just going to be calling it quits as I now come into the pit lane. I've done 7, well, I was about to go onto my 8th fast lap, so it's been quite a while out on these tyres, so they're probably a bit worn out now. So it's about time that we box and try and get some fresh rubber on it, with only 4 minutes left in the session, so that should be enough time for 1, maybe 2, depending how quick my outlap is. But I kind of want to gauge the conditions, because you never know, by the time that we go out, it could be intermediates. It does kind of look like I could start getting away with the intermediate tyres. And we're currently being pushed into the garage at the moment as the team gets set to make a few adjustments. I reckon I'm going to chuck off a heap of the fuel load just to try and make the car that little bit lighter and try and just maximize anything we've got as the time keeps ticking down. So we really need to get these changes done quick as we do, and we're now back out on track for our 7th fast lap in this session, and it looks like we are the only ones to take the gamble to go onto the intermediate tyres. So this will be a real gauge to see if we make a right call to try and boost us up the field any further. At the moment, it doesn't look like it's paying off. We're still a couple of tenths down on our time, but hopefully I kind of get a gauge of how quick these tyres really are and see if it's actually intermediate time, because I kind of want to try and make it up anywhere from P17, because P17 is really not where we deserve to be, considering on the soft tyre we're in P9. So going through the hairpin, we made up a bunch of time, going from about a tenth and a half down to just under a tenth up. So the exit grip seems to be much better. Mid-corner grip, still not there, as we run very wide going through the double left-hander and now heading into the final section of the circuit, about to go back up the hill. We're now 2.5 tenths down. So again, we got heaps of exit grip because we gained most of that time back. We're now going to throw it straight through the chicane, and again, our exit grip is absolutely insane at the moment. So it's the mid-corner grip on these intermediate tyres where it's not quite there. It's just the exit grip that's really going to save us here, as we're now another tenth and a half up. Make it to the apex, clipped it really nicely, go onto the exit curb, try and get a good exit out of the final corner to try and salvage whatever we can out of this lap. It looks like it's going to be at about a tenth and a half, maybe 2 tenths, depending on the tenth and a half we're going to be up. And that's actually going to drop us down from P17 to P19. So in the end, I reckon a few other drivers ended up getting in some fast laps, and I just didn't notice the name start tumbling down the order. So P19 in the end, definitely not where we want to be, as Verstappen, Leclerc and Hamilton were the top 3 in the first qualifying session, but I'm sure that will change in qualifying 3, which we will not be able to see, but we shall see when we get to the grid.
Welcome once again to the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari. The clue's in the name. This is very much Ferrari home turf, and the locals will be out in force today to support their team in what we hope will be a magnificent spectacle of motorsport. On then to the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. One lap of Imola, anti-clockwise of course, unlike most Formula One circuits, will take our drivers round 3.1 miles of track. 19 turns, 9 right-handers and 10 to the left. Drivers will need to be precise at the hairpin at turn 7, given the subsequent uphill section. Without a good exit from that corner, they'll lose a lot of time on that stretch. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Fernando Alonso, Bottas, Ocon, Stroll, Joe, Tsunoda, Oscar Piastri, Perez, Hamilton, Russell, Sainz, Sargent, Gasly, Albon, the Rainmaster, Norris, Magnussen, Hulkenberg, Iwasa, and Nick de Vries. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track. I'm joined again today by none other than Anthony Davidson. Tell me, Ant, obviously there's a lot of development work that goes on with these cars between the Grand Prix. You've been both a test driver and a race driver. What differences are there in the way that you approach those roles?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. They're two very different mindsets. In the old days, of course, they used to cover up to 15,000 kilometres of testing in a season, and that role would be more about working for the team, trying to help them improve the car and drive as systematically as possible, so that the data could be analysed in the most consistent way. When lining up on the grid for a race, however, a race driver's frame of mind is all about what they can get out of the situation on that day, and the car is the tool to help them achieve those goals.
And through some penalties, we do end up find ourselves back into P17. So I'll take those 2 positions. I really wish that those intermediate tyres in that final run did make us up go a bit further. But in the end, we can only do what we've got. So P17 it is. And for the strategy, I reckon we're going to start on the hard tyre and then go to the medium, make a small fuel load adjustment. But the hard tyre so far this season has been the tyre to be on, so I'm hoping to use this hard tyre advantage to try and extend this first stint and be a bit faster than hopefully the medium tyre runs. I reckon our pace on the hard tyre is definitely more superior than the medium tyre, so hopefully this first stint is going to be where we can make up all the positions as we go onto our formation lap. Try and get these tyres into the window. The hard tyres always are always a bit cooler than any other tyres, so just try not to overheat the tyre, try and not take out too much life of it as we now pull into our grid spot, and try and not stuff it up this time. We stuffed it up last time, and this time we do stuff it up. We've stuffed it up again, and this time I'm just going a bit too far. I reckon I'm just going too hot into our grid spot. It's now 5 red lights, and we're off for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix, and it is actually an alright start considering we're on the hard tyre compared to everyone else on the mediums. We try to get by Albon, but he shoves us a little bit onto the grass. We're not going to make any big outrageous dives like in Miami. Here, this corner is a bit more treacherous to get through side by side, and we're actually going to lose out on the spot to Albon, as I reckon we're just a bit too cautious there. But it's Leclerc who leads from Fernando Alonso. Alonso's gone up into 2nd position here, so he's managed to get by Max Verstappen off the start, and Leclerc's already pulled out a half a second gap, so big moves have been made in this first section of the race. As while the pack is bunched up, we're looking to make some big moves here on the inside of Alex Albon, while the pack is all bunched together and their tyres are starting to still try and come into a window. There's a little bit of side-to-side contact as we come up into Paratella for the first time this Grand Prix, but we do manage to keep the position ahead of Alex Albon. It's now the end of lap 1, and we're under attack again by the tyre driver, as we now have in the bottom corner the battle between Fernando Alonso and Max Verstappen, but it looks like Verstappen might get the better run here on Alonso. Alonso defends it really hard. He wants to try and make this P2 work, but Verstappen's going to come back at Alonso, and he's going to get through Villeneuve, so it looks like that Verstappen's going to be trying to chase down Leclerc now, but Leclerc, it's been a lap and a half, and he's already got that 2.5 seconds. And now heading into the last section of the second lap, we're looking to try and get by Alex Albon. We get a little bit of a better run. We've got our hard tyres are starting to come into a phase now, and using a bit of ERS and try and get the run, we're going to go down the inside into Rivazza, so our next target is now going to be Pierre Gasly, and we're going to try and use the slipstream from him in front to defend from Alex Albon, who seems to have a bit of a bad exit. And now this is Zhou trying to defend from Tsunoda, but Tsunoda's going to have the superior pace. The two Alfa Romeos really took advantage of this wet weather qualifying and have pulled themselves up further ahead of the field, but Zhou's going to successfully defend from Yuki Tsunoda. Is now looking back behind them two. It's now Piastri versus Stroll, so there's quite the battle now at the beginning of the form, and behind the McLaren there is also now quite the freight train being formed as well, which includes a whole heap of drivers, including Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari, so Sainz is not having a great day so far in Ferrari's, well, one of Ferrari's home races. This is very much Ferrari's turf, as we pull an identical move onto Pierre Gasly as we did Albon. So I reckon that's going to be our zone to get our overtakes done, and now looking onto the next lap again. And we've caught up now to that freight train that's being held up by Oscar Piastri, and we're going to make a move on Logan Sargent into the chicane, and it's going to be a pretty easy move in the end. We're going to now try and see if we can't get the run of Carlos Sainz at the same time, as he's being backed up by Lewis Hamilton. So everything's going on, and we're trying to take advantage of everything as they're all still bunched up together. And now it's Esteban Ocon versus Alonso, so this could be a good battle here between the ex-teammates for the final podium paying position. It's very early on in the race, but battling is not discouraged, as now Perez, he nearly got squeezed into the wall by Lance Stroll. So, but he should get by here, but Stroll's actually going to keep it up the inside, and as you can see ahead now, that everyone else is getting backed up, because it looks like it was maybe Tsunoda and Piastri going side by side into the first flying chicane. But now it's back to us, and it looks like we're going to be lining up a move onto Carlos Sainz, and we're actually quite a fair bit back. But we're going to have the superior braking power, and we're just going to make it look like an easy move on Carlos Sainz. And now next on our target list is going to be Lewis Hamilton, and Tsunoda is now going to try and regain that position back from Zhou Guanyu, who last time actually successfully defended from Zhou, but this time he's actually got DRS, so it looks like Tsunoda's going to have that one easy. Now back in our RPOV, looking behind us, Sainz has had an issue, and now Logan Sargent's actually got back by the Spaniard. So let's have a look and see what happened to Carlos Sainz. So he's behind up, and he actually just loses it on his own there. And he's very lucky he didn't spin, because that could have been a race-ending spin right in front of the pack. And this is on board with Logan Sargent, so you can see how sideways he got. And Sainz nearly ended up crashing into Logan as Logan was trying to go for that small gap on the left-hand side of the circuit. As this battle between Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon continues, so I reckon this could be a very much a race-long battle. As you can see there, though, Verstappen's closing in this gap to Charles Leclerc, so we could have a battle for the lead on pretty soon, as we have now caught up to the back of Lewis Hamilton. So it looks like Hamilton's got a bad exit here, so we could be going around the outside into the chicane. Had to slam on the brakes a bit sooner than expected because wasn't expecting Stroll to be so slow, but we should have the exit speed over Hamilton. We do. We've already pulled half a second on him, as now we've got a team radio.
Okay, information on science. They've got an issue with their car. They're going to be slow.
Copy.
And as you heard there, Carlos Sainz does actually have an issue, as Lewis Hamilton has taken advantage of the slow Spaniard, and well, actually he was defending from Sainz as Hamilton was put offline. But looking here, Piastri has still got quite the train behind him, so Perez is now going to be next on the list to try and get by Piastri. As you can see, the Alfa Romeo has already gapped the field. He's got a 1.3 second lead over Tsunoda, who's currently battling with George Russell as it's 2x2 going through the chicane, and it looks like that they're going to be holding up each other quite a bit, and we're going to take full advantage of this, and we're going to try and go up the inside line Stroll, and we do. I was really looking to try and see if we couldn't get the exit speed and try and get by either Perez or Piastri, as they're going to keep going side by side through here, so this is really going to hold up the both of them. We're going to try and get the run though, and we're blocked in by both of them. They'll blow so slow through there. But we're going to try and keep it around the outside of Oscar Piastri to try and get this move done, and we do successfully get it done. So Sergio Perez is now on our target list, but we are crucially into the point, so that's where we want to be, as George Russell now has caught up and passes Zhou Guanyu, who did end up gapping the field by quite some margin. But it seems like Tsunoda's pace has been really dropping off, because now he's actually next in front of us, so Perez has been able to get by Tsunoda and has already gapped 1.7 seconds, so with the power-up DRS we should make this a pretty easy move, pulling alongside and getting it all done before the braking zone even into turn 1, well 2 officially, but as you can see in front of us, Perez is really battling hard with the Alfa Romeo Zhou, I believe that is. So it looks like Zhou's not making it easy for anyone. And Ocon's going to be getting by Alonso again, so this final podium paying position battle is still going on between the two ex-teammates, and it is Ocon at the moment who's got the better of Fernando Alonso. And to our POV now, it looks like that we're going to be trying to catch up to Zhou, and there's a yellow flag, so who's going slow? It's Zhou going slow, so this is going to be another free position for us. And it looks like he's going to be pulling off with some sort of mechanical failure. And as we now look to a replay of what has happened to Zhou Guanyu, he's just gone into the hairpin. It looks like he's had some sort of issue before he's even got to the hairpin, and he's just slow. There's no telltale sign of smoke saying that there was some sort of engine failure, so it could be something as simple as a gearbox or something else that the team has seen telling him to pull over. But this battle for the podium is continuing to go, as now Alonso gets by Esteban Ocon, so Alonso is now into P3, but Bottas is closing the gap. He is catching up as Verstappen has caught up to the back of Charles Leclerc, and he's trying to make a move, and Leclerc's making this difficult as he nearly put Verstappen into the wall onto the main straight, but Verstappen's going to get the move done. So I wonder if Verstappen's going to be able to maintain this lead. But going on to the next lap, it's not the case. Verstappen's giving Charles Leclerc a bit of his own medicine by squeezing him into the wall, and he's going to squeeze him again onto the grass. So Leclerc's not able to get the position done by this time, as there's a really hard defense coming from Max Verstappen as they both pull into the pits now. So this is a battle between the crews to see who can get the better stop. It's a slow stop from Ferrari, so they've lost quite a bit of time to Verstappen in the pit stop. So unfortunate for Charles Leclerc. He's going to try and make that back up in the pit cycle, as now we're actually going to go long on this first stint because we are on the hard tyre, and we're actually going to come out in front of both Verstappen and Leclerc. So we are currently ahead of the two net leaders, but that's not going to be the case forever, as Verstappen has already caught up to the back of us, and he's going to make a pretty easy move going into Piratella. So in the end of that new hard tyre, looks like it's going to have the superior grip for a while, and we're now going to pull out the white flag. We're coming into the pits. We're going to go onto a fresh set of medium tyres and try and see if we can't make our way back through the field. I reckon we might lose a position or two because the other people may undercut us because they're going to be on the fresher rubber as well for a couple of laps, so they're going to be quite fast. But I reckon our end of race pace should be pretty good, as it's a slow pit stop. Oh, the crew's messed up on the left front, so it looks like we're going to have a bit more extra work as Iwasa goes by. He's into the points, but he is yet to make a pit stop. Snow goes by. We overtook him, remember, in the pit stop cycle as well. Same with Hamilton. And it looks, we're going to be very close with Piastri. So Piastri was behind us, but he's going to come out in front of us. So we've lost a lot of time through this pit cycle, so maybe this wasn't the strategy to be on. But anyways, head down, trying to keep going and see what we can salvage from this, as Leclerc does get back by Max Verstappen. So Leclerc has not let those pit stop issues phase him whatsoever, as now going on to the next lap. This battle is going to continue for quite a while, as now Max Verstappen wants to get back by. So this is really just a game of DRS which is helping, you would imagine would help the Red Bull with their superior DRS power at the moment, as we are now onto the back of Oscar Piastri. You can see there, Iwasa has finally come into the pit, so I would imagine it's going to come out near bum last, which will be unfortunate, as I reckon he had some half decent pace. We've actually set a perfect sector, so these medium tyres are actually cooking at the moment, and we're going to make a pretty easy overtake on Oscar Piastri. We actually didn't quite have enough straight line speed, so we're going to have to give him a bit of a squeeze into the second part of the chicane to make sure we maintain the position. But now it's 6.8 seconds to Yuki Tsunoda, who's our next target, as Leclerc is now getting back by Max Verstappen. So this battle for the lead looks like it's going to be very entertaining all the way to the end. And now this is Bottas getting overtaken by George Russell. Remember, they had quite the collision here a few years ago. So, and it looks like Perez is going to try and get advantage of this too. And it looks like Bottas actually had a bit of a tank slapper on the exit. So looking forward again now, it's going to be George Russell under attack from Sergio Perez. So Perez is currently on the charge, and it looks like he's going to get the move done pretty easily on Russell. So now he's going to be wanting to try and get by Ocon. He's actually fallen off pace a little bit to Fernando Alonso, so maybe Alonso has now secured that P3, but Russell is now getting back by Perez a lap later. So these are genuine battles going along the field, and Ocon's pace has really dropped off because now he's under attack from George Russell, and Perez is right there too, so Perez might be able to get the both of them if they come into contact, but looks like Ocon might be able to just defend this. George Russell goes around the outside and maintains the position, which is going to slow up Ocon, which now means Perez is being compromised, so Perez is going to be wanting to get by Ocon very fast and make sure that he can try and maintain his gap and battle with George Russell, as now it looks like Leclerc's trying to make another move onto Max Verstappen, and he's going to try and make it stick around the outside. This is just a real good overtaking masterclass between these two. Good clean battling with a couple of squeezes here and there, but got to get a bit of argy-bargy sometimes, and he's now back on board with Perez, and he's going to be trying to get by Ocon, but it's actually Ocon is getting back by George Russell. So this race is really just a DRS game down this straight, as we now look to Max Verstappen, and you wouldn't believe it, it's going to be another overtake using the DRS. So there's going to be battles everywhere up and down this field, and it's just going to be a case of who can maintain the gap. And Max Verstappen actually got onto the grass a little bit there, so he had a bit of a wobble going into the brake section, and now George Russell should be able to make this move onto Ocon pretty easily. Now Perez is going to be right there as well, so could Perez make something of this? No, he can't. Can't quite get close enough to the Frenchman, but now Charles Leclerc is going to make a very easy overtake on Max Verstappen once again. So this has really turned into DRS games, as I was just saying before. Now Perez is going to get by Ocon. Ocon, he's really fallen off the pace now. He hasn't been able to maintain a gap to Russell. So now Russell's driven up the road, so now that's made Perez's job a little bit harder, and we've closed down the gap to Yuki Tsunoda. Remember, I reckon that was 6.8 seconds. We've now closed down in a matter of a few laps. And Yuki Tsunoda's actually got a bit of a tail wag going on the exit of the final corner. So that's ruined his run down the straight. So this should be a very easy overtake with the aid of DRS, and it is, we've already gapped him before the braking zone. But we're going to try and stay a little bit defensive, as he could send it down the inside, but he won't. So we've now got 1.5 seconds to Lewis Hamilton. He's going to be our next target, and I reckon realistically that's about as far up the field as we're going to get. And we do. We have caught up to Hamilton quite quickly, actually. So now we've got a matter of 2.5 laps to try and get by. So there's really no need to rush this, as he's very slow through Toza. So just really need to play my cards here correctly and try and get the move done nice and cleanly. And now going through Piratella, he gets very taily, so we're going to try and go around the outside, pull an identical move we did to Oscar Piastri many laps ago, and we get it done much sooner than we did against Piastri. And so we've got a bit of a tail wag going, so as we try to get back on the PL, because we want to try and bridge a 1 second gap if we can. We actually locked the rears. We locked the rears, and that sent us wide, so we're very lucky that we didn't do a Yuki Tsunoda and throw it into the wolves. So we're going to try and play a bit of a game of DRS chicken, but I reckon I've braked a bit too late, and we've actually just handed Hamilton the position as well as DRS. So trying to play those DRS games, I reckon it's just punched us in the back a little bit, and sure enough, Lewis Hamilton's about to open up DRS, so we're going to try and maintain within this lap and possibly onto the next lap as well to try and make a quick overtake. And now Perez is going to get by George Russell, so Perez, I reckon, is going to be P4 at best if George Russell doesn't get by into the next lap or so. But this is a final lap overtake for the lead of the race. Charles Leclerc is going to go around the outside of Max Verstappen. So this DRS battle is going to go all the way to the end, and he didn't get it quite done immediately like every other time. Max Verstappen made it quite a lot harder, and Verstappen, I would say, is going to try and make the move somewhere else. But back to our POV and we're going to be trying to get by Lewis Hamilton once again. And we're going to launch it down the inside, and he's actually turned in on us a little bit, or didn't quite have the nose up there, but anyway, we're going to move him out the way just slightly, and we're going to try and now bridge this gap. I don't want to be under any pressure from him because my mediums are going to be starting to go off the cliff a little bit. Not that we've even got the tyre wear warning indicator, but we've been quality lapping over and over again. But Charles Leclerc is going to take the win just over Max Verstappen and end up being 0.4 of a second. And we're going to get it all wrong through the chicane here. We're going to narrowly keep it out of the wall. So Lewis Hamilton's going to be wanting to try and make this overtake and try and get this P8 back off of us as we go super defensive on the racing line into there, a bit slower on the apex to try and park the bus a little bit. And now we're going to try and just focus on getting the run out of the final corner, but Hamilton's actually going to get a better run than us. And he's going to have a little bit of a look, but it's going to be a 10th between us. So P8 in the end, pretty good recovery from P17. So I reckon we can call that a win. We did end up getting points, which is always a bonus considering we're in the second worst car at the moment, and we do get driver of the day, so pretty cool to know that our efforts had been recognised in the race and now into the celebrations.
And what a sensational victory they've managed to pull off here. Well, Anthony Davidson, a resounding victory today, but what set them apart from the rest?
I feel like consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
Ferrari are at it again. An excellent performance at today's Grand Prix, and they're certainly a team that know what they're doing out there.
Now, having a look at the full race results, in the end, the podium was, as we saw, Leclerc, Verstappen, Alonso. George Russell did getting back by Sergio Perez, so Russell ended up finishing P4 ahead of Sergio Perez, and as you can see, there was only a 0.4 of a second gap. We finished P8, just behind Ocon and Bottas, but crucially ahead of Hamilton and Tsunoda. Oscar Piastri, unfortunately, did not quite get into the points. Would have been cool to see two Aussies in the points of a Formula 1 race. Looking at the driver standings now, Charles Leclerc has close that gap in a little bit from Max Verstappen. It's now only 17 points, but 18 points separate the top three. So it's two Red Bulls versus a Ferrari at the moment, with the two Mercedes, Russell and Hamilton 4 and 5th, and we're currently sitting at P12 now. At the constructors' standings, Red Bull extends their lead over Ferrari as Sainz did not score any points. And so it's now 57 points between Red Bull and Ferrari. So Red Bull starting to just walk away a little bit with it. And Brabham currently sits P8 after another strong points finish. And we're only 8 points behind Alfa Romeo now. We're back in the HQ before the Monaco Grand Prix. We've got a couple of marketing events to go. And the first one's going to be choosing a new rival. We're actually going to select Esteban Ocon as our new rival, as I reckon trying to go for Alpine and the constructors could be a pretty strong challenge for us to go for. And then Iwasa, we reckon, could use some driver statistics upgrades. So we're going to go for some simulator training during our free time. And for the powertrain, we're actually going to do a cylinder head upgrade. And then in durability, we're actually going to look for some more upgrades as well by doing a controller electronics upgrade as well. So hopefully this can boost the car up the grid a little bit more, and we're also going to be doing a quality control upgrade for our chassis department to try and reduce the risk of some of our products and upgrades being declined in the future. So that's all for this episode. Make sure that you check out the next episode in Monaco, as everyone loves a good drive around Monaco. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode. See ya.